Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to the 24th edition of Business Opportunity Over Chai, an initiative by Franchise India team for our premium brands and potential business buyer for brand expansion and right selection of the brand, respectively. With this introduction, I welcome our respected Chairman Franchise India Group, Gaurav Sir, and our MD Franchise India Brands Limited, Sonia Ma'am, to share their insights, their thoughts, and their feedbacks for today's session. With, with very proud, I invite our brand of the day and brand founder. So, brand of the day is Plug and Go, and we have our brand founder and MD, Mr. Vineet Bansal. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today, sparing time from your busy schedule, and to give us the understanding about your brand. With this introduction, I welcome you to the formal introduction about your brand to our potential business buyers. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Archana, and thank you, Gaurav and Sonia, for giving us the opportunity to talk about our brand and in terms of our organization and what we're doing. So very happy to be here and share our journey so far and what we are doing. And coming to primarily our company's mission or vision is to look at energy as a service, to provide that using our technology in terms of both charging infrastructure as well as the battery, the energy storage. So using these two products, as a focus area, and using our technology platform, vis-a-vis software platform for charging infra, as well as the technology that we are bringing in for our batteries. We are looking at addressing the needs of the e-mobility in the market. Next slide, please. So I think I just wanted to share an accomplishment. Our entire team had worked very hard in terms of what we have set up so far. We have been awarded by Frost & Sullivan as the Entrepreneurial Company of the Year for charging infrastructure. So we take great pride in that. And and today we will try and share in terms of what we have done and how we are looking at addressing the needs of the charging infrastructure for e-mobility. Next slide. So I think I just wanted to kind of give a little bit background as to why we are into this space. There are two major issues. I think one is the pollution, which 15 of the major cities in India are the heavily polluted, and also India is the third largest importer of oil. Now, one of the things as part of this we are all going through during this COVID, we have realized that the environment has really cleaned up over the last 2 months, and I could see a huge difference in the first 15 days of the lockdown. So I think that itself is a testimony that using clean energy can significantly have an impact on the air we breathe in, and also we all look for clean environment. And so I think with what we anticipate going forward is there is going to be an even further push, both as an individual, as a person who who breathes air, also from the government, to look at clean energy. So I think we are very excited about the fact that we are in this space and we can make a difference. The government has also taken several initiatives with regards to promoting electric vehicle. There's a policy to get 30% EV by 2030, and they have issued two FAME 1 and FAME 2 schemes to promote electric vehicles. In addition to that, they're also looking at providing initiatives for cell manufacturing, because battery is a very important part of e-mobility. And in addition to that, there's also renewable energy to get to 175 gigawatt by 2022. So all of these initiatives are going to help in terms of promoting electric vehicle and e-mobility. And we anticipate over the next 10 years, about 14 million electric vehicles will be on the road, and that would need about 3 to 4 million chargers with about 15% DC chargers and the balance of AC chargers. So with that kind of, in terms of implementation, we anticipate the energy storage industry to be about $30 billion, which out of which 30% would be auto. And in addition to that, the energy consumption through these charging infrastructure to be about $6 billion industry by 2030. So this is, we anticipate that this is a great opportunity for people to invest in this space. We are investing in this space, and I think we can make a big difference to the lives of everyone. Next slide, please. So if we were to kind of look at the last 3 years to see what has happened in terms of e-mobility, in terms of the number of vehicles on the road, so we see in the four-wheeler segment, the penetration is rather slow. You do see some penetration happening in the two-wheeler segment. It is now, last year we did about 152,000 two-wheelers. The big there is for the three-wheelers that is primarily used with lead-acid batteries at this point of time. And I think going forward, a lot of transition is happening from lead-acid to lithium-ion. So that will also kind of provide an opportunity in terms of the growth in this space. Next slide. So, here is a list of, in terms of several OEMs who are looking at bringing in electric vehicles into the market. You have, right now, Tata Nexon has already been launched, Hyundai Kona, MG Motors, you have the Tata Tigor and Mahindra eVerito. These are some of the products that are already in the market. And we are going to see a lot more products coming, which are going to be launched. Mahindra is going to be launching EKUV 100 very soon. And next year, they will be launching the XUV 300. And Hyundai is looking at launching an electric sedan. Hyundai is looking at launching the sedan, electric sedan. So we see a lot of these vehicles coming on the road, and I think we are getting ready to make sure that when these vehicles come on road, we have a charging infrastructure and network for them, so that it helps them to get into their help them market their products. Next slide. Regarding the two-wheeler and three-wheeler industry, there have been several announcements made by last mile deliveries in terms of Domino Pizzas, Flipkart, Amazon, Delivery, Big Basket. So they're all looking at moving into e-mobility and electric vehicle. And we see a two-wheeler and three-wheeler is a segment that is going to see the maximum growth in the short span in the near future. And I think because the commercial viability in this segment is quite compelling. And that's why a lot of these last mile delivery operators are adopting this technology, electric vehicles, to save their operating costs. They're all under a lot of pressure in terms of reducing cost, and electric vehicle is one such part of their big cost element where they can bring efficiency. Next slide. So if I were to kind of look at the two segments, the four-wheeler and the three-wheeler segment, so we feel that majority of the penetration right now, the growth is going to happen in the B2B segment. In terms of micro mobility, there are several brands that you may be able to relate to, like Bounce, eBike, Smart, using electric vehicles, fleet operators, in terms of like Blue Smart, Zoom Car, Uber, Lithium, who are already promoting electric vehicles. And then, as I mentioned, for the last mile logistics, a lot of people who are looking at using electric vehicles for two-three-wheeler segment. So what we anticipate is initially in the first couple of years, most of the growth in this space is going to be driven by companies you see on the screen here. And this will help create the infrastructure, which will then further provide the opportunity for consumers or individual buyers like ourselves to get into these electric vehicles, because now the infrastructure will be there to kind of use this. So in terms of the viability of the infrastructure is going to come through captive use. And that's what we are looking at in terms of how our business is to structure, in terms of how do we partner with all these brands that you see on the screen, so that as we set up our charging infrastructure, we bring in captive business to make these outlets viable. And then as the things pass by, and once this infrastructure is in place, you will see individuals starting to buy in large numbers these vehicles. Next slide. So this is one of the studies that was done by KPMG, and they had given some kind of projections that if you were to look at over a next 10-year horizon. Now, in my first initial slide, I had mentioned about 14 million units that we're looking at. That included all two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, and buses. But if you were to look at this slide, it's a very optimistic number, but it can be really realistic if which could be, this is where we see the maximum penetration happening as far as a two-wheeler application is concerned and e-mobility. So we could actually end up seeing 40 million two-wheelers, e-scooters out on the roads over the next 10 years. And today, as I mentioned last year, we did about 152 two-wheelers, so it's showing about 100,000 right now. This year, we're anticipating about 300,000 two-wheelers on the road. So I think, in terms of good projections, that could become very realistic. Next slide. So having talked about, the industry and where we see the opportunity, so the next is in terms of what are we doing, what is EV Motors, and what are we doing to try and support this, this initiative or this opportunity. So we are looking at a brand called Plug and Go. We have introduced this brand Plug and Go very recently, about a year and a half back. And the goal behind this is to provide this charging infrastructure for different users, OEMs, fleet operators, equipment manufacturers. And our vision is to become a brand of choice among e-vehicle users. So, and that's one of the reasons why we are here today is talking about what we are trying to do and how we are looking at creating this brand, where when you think of charging, you think of Plug and Go, right? In terms of that's what we are kind of trying to achieve. Next slide. So in order to do that, what we have done is we look at providing a complete turnkey business solution or turnkey solution for the creation of the charging infrastructure, which involves, in terms of we have partnered with multiple equipment manufacturers to be able to provide the right equipment to our franchisee. We provide the complete installation, because this does require high tension or high, working high voltage. So in terms of installation, we have developed that expertise in-house in terms of how to do that. Along with that, we provide the marketing and branding support. Surveillance and maintenance is a very important element. As you make investments in these equipments, you want to make sure that these equipments are safe. And in addition to that, we also have a system by which we are trying to provide 99% connectivity from the charging equipment to our server. Today it's the world of digitization, digital world. So we have also worked towards creating a platform, a software platform, a mobile app, which you can use, to charge vehicles and also to make the payments to that. Making sure that there is a very smooth payment system. So we have worked a lot in terms of, on the back end to, provide this kind of a support to our franchisee and to a brand in terms of being able to get into this, into the business. Next slide. So this is just a kind of screenshots of our apps. So today our apps are already live. So you could use either your Android or an iOS phone to download our app, plug and go. And you should be able to navigate and see what the various options you have, and how we are looking at providing this. Most of our users are currently using this app to charge their vehicle. It's fully functional. We have a team of people who are continuously looking at upgrading as we move along, and as we get continuous feedback from our customers, our users. We have a system to continue to update our mobile app to give a better user experience. Next slide. As I said, on a digitized, our system is completely digitized. So all our chargers have QR codes. You use the QR code using your mobile phone, you scan it, you get an OTP, get authenticated, and then you can start and stop your charging system through your mobile app. All of the time when you charge, you need to go out. So you connect your charger and you go, and then wherever you are, you can just use your mobile phone to stop it. And that will give a cue to the operator at the charging station to disconnect your vehicle. Also, we have the secured payment gateway to make sure that your payments are secure. And using a mobile app, you can also get your reports and look at your charging history. So I think all of this is already, the software platform is already available, and our customers are already using that today. Next slide. So, see, one of the important things for us is, as we kind of look at addressing the complete ecosystem for for e-mobility. So we have to cut across several players, stakeholders. So first of all, we are looking at providing a business opportunity to various franchisees looking and investing in this space. Secondly, we also, as part of our solution, all the fleet operators and EV owners who want access to be able to charge the vehicles. So we are looking at providing them the access to our charging station, an easy payment option, ease of booking, and a lot of the features. For EV charger manufacturers, it's a business opportunity as we buy these chargers from various equipment manufacturers to install at outlets. It's a revenue opportunity for real estate developers, in sense that wherever we set up the charging infrastructure in the parking lots, and then also from an OEM to increase their sales, the sales of the cars and electric vehicle. So we are looking at creating a win-win situation for different stakeholders with vis-a-vis a manufacturer or a new investor, a fleet operator, real estate developer. So I think the way we are looking at creating this entire ecosystem is addressing the various stakeholders in the space. Next slide. So what's the business model? In terms of if you are interested in being a franchise, what does it mean? How can you be a part of this journey? So we have two models. One is a 4-wheeler, 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler model, and the other one is just a 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler model. So we'll kind of share with you a little bit about what the business model is. So when you look at the first model, where it is the 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, or 4-wheeler, we're looking for you to provide 800 to 1,000 square feet of parking space. One thing is very important to remember: that charging generally happens at a parking space wherever you park your vehicle, because today's technology, and how it is, you do need minimum 15 minutes to 30 minutes to an hour to charge your vehicle. But generally, you do that where you park your vehicle. It's not, so I think it's important to understand that a good spot for where to set up a charging infra is at a parking space. For the 4-wheeler and for the complete system, you do need electricity load of 100 kilowatt to 140 kilowatt. And we kind of help our franchise to make sure that, we work with you to get you that load, because that becomes a big bottleneck. So we are working with several DISCOMs, we partnership with several DISCOMs to make sure that that process of getting the load connection is smoothed out. We look at you to have at least a 10-year lease payment on the land. And for the 2-wheelers, the land area is about 150 to 200 square feet, and a 24 road. One of the things we do for two-wheeler is for the franchise to already be into some kind of a retail business, so you can set up your charging outlet right outside your retail. So I think that's an important element to be part of a franchise, is to have that infrastructure with you, because then the viability and your returns becomes very attractive. And we require is safety is a very big element. That we do require all of franchisees to follow the safety procedures that we have outlined. We provide you all the training and also our software, because our platform that we provide. So we expect all our franchisees to be using that platform. Next slide. So in terms of the roles and responsibilities, from our side, as I told you, we provide the equipment, installation, commissioning. We provide the training. We also provide the maintenance of the chargers, the software, the billing, marketing. In terms of we want to make sure that our franchisees are successful, so we do the marketing for the location, and we have tie-up with fleet operators to help in terms of uh, uh, generating revenues and providing captive business. From a franchise perspective, we are looking at you to make the investment and operate the outlets, provide manpower, follow our operating procedures as we're outlining, and also in terms of we're looking at our franchise to set up multiple charging outlets. Next slide. So just to kind of give you what our charging outlet looks like, we have this is the one which is operating in Gurgaon in the DLF Gateway Towers. It's in the office complex, where a lot of the our customers are coming. Most of them are fleet operators, and we have some individual operators who come in and charging our outlets. So kind of give you a perspective of what an charging outlet looks like. Next slide. This is for the complete 2, 3, 4-wheeler segment. And this is a sketch, but primarily for a two-wheeler. So each of our charging outlet for a two-wheeler, it's a one equipment-based solution. It can charge 4 two-wheelers at the same time and 2 three-wheelers at the same time. So it can charge up to 6 vehicles, this charger. So designed specifically to meet the needs of the market. And one of the things that this charger that we looked at design is, as we initially said, that we're also into the battery business. And one of the technology advantage that we provide for a battery is a 30-minute charge. Today, most of the batteries that are out there takes about 3 to 4 hours of charging time, or people resort to battery swapping. So we are introducing a new technology on the batteries that can charge in 30 minutes. So these chargers have been designed so that in 3 minutes you can actually charge your vehicle and move on. So that makes the viability of your business model, because you can charge number of vehicles throughout the day, and it increases the viability of the business model for two-wheeler charging. We as a brand are primarily focused on DC charging, which is fast charging. There is also AC charging. Some of our outlets may have AC charging, but predominantly because we are getting into public charging, we want to make sure that our partners are financially successful. Plus, also from a customer's perspective, that we can charge them, charge the vehicles fast enough. So we, as a strategy, we're kind of looking at fast charging solutions. Next slide. This is my last slide. So in terms of, what is the level of investment and what kind of returns you can get, for the 2, 3, 4-wheeler chargers, we're looking at an investment about 44 lakhs with a 5-year IRR. Now, one of the reasons you see the IRR in terms of the way it is, because right now it's still going to take time for the 4-wheelers to, in terms of the population to grow. So initially, the IRR may be slightly on the, when you compare it to the two-wheeler on the lower side. But it's important to understand is that in this business, it's location, location, location. So I think it's important to get into this space and identify your location where you are going to set up your charging station. So I think it's these numbers are going to increase as the number of vehicles on the road increases. On the two-wheeler model, because we see a big two, three-wheeler model, franchise model, we see a large adoption in that space. The investment requirement is about 6 lakhs, and we see a much higher IRR of almost 40%. And because of the captive use and because of the battery solution that we are also looking at. So one of the advantages of working with our brand is that we not only just a charger supplier, we are also looking at terms of energy storage supplier that makes it viable to provide captive business into your outlets. So I think that's a very unique advantage that we provide to our franchisee and a brand in terms of how we make the business viable. So I think that's pretty much what I had to cover today. Hopefully, you were able to get a sense in terms of who we are and what we're trying to provide. And I would be happy to respond to any questions or any comments or anything that people or the audience may have today.
Thank you, Viniji. Very, very kind of you to be part of this forum. We especially invited you because we feel, as we were discussing before the webinar started, you're one of the few opportunities we can see in the current times, which is very sustainable and also demand. So I feel that there are very few opportunities, especially in the current times, where we see there is an opportunity going forward. More importantly, and this I tell in almost all webinars we do, that people, when they buy a business, they should look at a 5 to 10 year horizon. If I look from a 5 to 10 year horizon, undoubtedly the demand for your business would be as high. I mean, I come from a family where we run petrol pumps and gas agencies, and I've seen in the 80s and 90s the kind of demand. Everybody used to think that if I have a petrol pump in life, then at least my career is secure. So I would have, and now I think this would shift to operators like you, because as the population of e-vehicles would increase, the demand for charging points or charging stations, charging infrastructure, what you said, would continue to rise and grow. So we have no doubt that this category is a huge category in times to come. And we have seen globally, wherever we have franchise exhibitions happening worldwide, we've seen this category is one of the prominent categories. People actually put the same station you've done, they put a station in the franchise exhibition shows and actually demonstrate how this all works. And this is going everywhere in the world in different structures, a lot of captive locations coming in, as you showed that it can be in campus kind of a locations. It can be also a lot of public locations which will be available. So just to summarize a little bit on your business model, I think we divide every opportunity into 3 parts. One is what we call the business model, the influences, and the risk. So we will start with a little bit on influences. We all know it's a very positive influence going on, because both by the regulator and also by the changes in the whole space, electric vehicle is way to go. And I think in India, impact would come from all. It come from personal vehicles to also public transport. So all that would become much bigger. So going to the business model side of it, and a little bit on the risk side. So business model side, I would like to know that while I think at this stage the penetration levels is low for cars and even for 2-wheelers and also for 3-wheelers, how do you bring in predictability that which location, what kind of volume we can expect? So predictability in our business model is very important. If you're making an investment, how do you do that? So that's part on the business model side. And I will take one part on the risk side, because this is relatively easy entry model. Anybody can bring in similar technology or me too technology and enter the market or open next to you. So if I open a plug and go center, what stops somebody to open up a next to me? What is the kind of entry barriers, or what you see can be the risk for entrepreneurs to get into business like that? So these are 2 big starting point questions for my side.
No, sure. I think When you talk about the business model, you mentioned in terms of how do you bring predictability into the business model, and I think one of the way we are looking at this predictability is, as I said initially, uh, what we are anticipating. A lot of the business is going to be generated by fleet operators, right? Who are going to be using electric vehicles. And when I talk about fleet operators, I'm talking from four-wheeler passenger, and then when we talk about two-wheeler, three-wheeler, it is a lot of the last mile delivery. So the way we are looking at bringing predictability is to have captive business, right? So as long as we have initially, in the first couple of years, 50 to 60% of the business is captive. So that's where we ensure that our franchise is viable, right? And how do we ensure captive business is we are also in the business of batteries, which we are providing to the last mile fleet operators who are actually buying our batteries. And the second thing is the technology. Technology in terms of the battery that can charge in 10 minutes. So when people are buying a battery, they will be forced to charge at our outlets if they want to get to the 30-minute charge. And I want to use a technical reference here that our chargers can charge these batteries. In order to do that, it takes about minimum 40 amperes of current. Typically, all the chargers that are out there today takes about 7 to 10 amperes of current. So if you want to charge your vehicle much faster, so you need a higher current that is being delivered to your battery. So that feature is what we are providing through our chargers. Now these chargers are going to be certified by ARAI, so this meets the intent, and it also meets, it has a multiple, it's a combo charger, right, that we have developed, so it meets 001 requirements that the government mandated. In addition to that, it meets the requirements for the batteries that we are introducing. So that's how we kind of look at mitigating the risk and providing, in terms of, making sure that there is enough, load in there. The second thing is we are also looking at a subscription-based model, so that we are also working with OEMs to try and see how we can underwrite the charging part of it, so that when they sell the vehicle, they're also, taking, we're also underwriting the fuel cost for them. So what that means is that when they sell the vehicle, they sell that fuel, the charging amount that we get paid every month from the subscription business. So and also we are trying to offer this to our fleet customers. So, these kind of initiatives that we have ensures that there is predictability in terms of income, and both from a technology as well as the business model, and in terms of creating a network of chargers. And that's why I think any partnership is a quick, in terms of a joint effort. So as we build our franchise, as we build our network, the more, the wider network we have, the wider, in terms of spread that we have, it will kind of support each other in terms of we making sure that they get the business, and the franchise making sure that they create the network for us to get the continuity. The second question you asked was on the risk side of it, in terms of how do we ensure that the barriers to entry, and how do we ensure that other people doesn't come in. So first of all, getting land, that's a big challenge. I mean, initially we also thought it is going to be a cakewalk, but I'm telling you, getting the load connection and getting the land is one of the two of the most difficult things in business, right? So I think that's a huge barrier to entry. The second thing is also that even if you set up a charging station today, I hate to say this, but there is, the government of India has set up a significant amount of charging stations, but they don't have crowd, they don't have traffic coming in. And one of the reasons is it requires marketing, it requires a network. So that's one of the things that we provide as a brand, is to make sure that that marketing effort is being done, the branding is being done, and also in terms of the payments, to make sure that risk gets mitigated, that you don't have an investment which is just sitting idle, right? So we mitigate that risk by making sure that there is traffic coming in, right? Now, obviously, we are going to protect, making sure that within, initially within a 3 kilometer or a 5 kilometer radius, and there's no other outlet for our brand which is out there. But as the density keeps on increasing, so that 5 kilometer will reduce to 3 kilometer. Our goal is at the end of 5 years that no matter where you're standing anywhere in India, that the nearest charging station to you is about 1 kilometer or less than a kilometer away. It's going to take some effort for us to get there, but that's our intent, and that's where we want to go. So we also provide that protection to our franchisee initially to make sure that we are not setting up two outlets very close to each other. So those are some of my thoughts.
Sure. So it's a very, very helpful. And I think in the couple of discussions I had with you, especially on the two-wheeler side, I think it was much easier to go to market because you need to be in the place where largely especially these delivery companies like a Zomato or a Swiggy or other delivery platforms, wherever their vehicles are moving or their clusters are there, and if say you run a food outlet, and I'm just saying because you're normally in a market where a lot of these people would come for picking up food or for
Yes.
own stores. If you set up that, and this is a great opportunity for all our audience. If you're already in some form of a retail business and you wanted to add an additional business with just about 6 odd lakh rupees, which can give you additional income, especially at these times, because a couple of franchisees of ours, especially in the food space and other places, are currently struggling from their sales function and so forth. This might be a great opportunity for an add-on business with good return also, and you will see that because of these delivery team pickup and delivery boys would come and park their vehicle and get it charged. So that is a big opportunity, especially in markets like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Bombay, Delhi, Chennai, and Calcutta. I think there is a tremendous amount of opportunity to quickly set it up. And I had a discussion with Puniji that their team also have done a lot of work, and they're closely working with these delivery companies to have larger contracts in place at the corporate level to encourage that their vehicles are fleet owners' vehicles are charged at that. And there's a lot also otherwise happening on the last mile connectivity. Mahindra is launching a very large program of 5,000 vehicles in no time. For last mile connectivity means that from a metro station to your home or a metro station to your office, all of these electric vehicles would come, and these would be very small neighborhoods where they would need charging stations. So it's a great time to invest into charging infrastructure. So I have two questions, quick questions for you, and then I'll pass it on to Soumya. One is that you said that you also are a battery manufacturer and can supply batteries, and when the batteries are given to these vehicles and they have to charge normally with you. So is this opportunity also would come along with the franchisees that they can also have a sales of batteries can also become additional income for them? That's one question. Second, are we also open for larger territory rights as a master franchise, because somebody who has the ability to build his network or region, or somebody who comes with some kind of a strategic advantage on getting those locations all across market, are we looking for a master franchise or area franchise and also a battery distribution?
So I'll try and answer your second question first. So I think one of the things that we would love to have is master franchise. I think that's something that will also help us in terms of if somebody can actually come and say, hey, we would like to have this territory. We would be very happy to entertain that. And obviously there are certain things that we need to work out. So I think that's a preferred route for us initially in the initial days to get into that master franchise, because then it also gives them an additional revenue opportunity. So I think that's something we would definitely encourage. The second question, you mentioned was, in terms of distribution of batteries. So I think the distribution of batteries needs to take place, as I said, from a two-wheeler perspective. If they're already somehow engaged in some kind of a retail business with two-wheelers, like for example, if they're already a battery distributor or they're already places like a tire distributor with two-wheeler tires. So I think we have to look at that on a case-by-case basis, and we will absolutely be open to looking at ways in terms of how these batteries can be distributed. But I think we would be looking at distributing these batteries maybe in later years in terms of subsequent years. Initially, we are looking at leasing these batteries as part of a business model, because we kind of want to make sure that we are able to monitor these batteries and make sure that it is addressing the needs because we are kind of launching. So we want to have a controlled process in terms of making sure the customers are happy and satisfied. But I think years 2, 3 from onwards, definitely an opportunity for people to also become a distributor for these batteries.
Thank you. Sonia, over to you for your remarks and questions, please.
Thank you so much, Vineetji, for putting this presentation very elaborative for us, and I would say the right and the apt times for us to look at this opportunity. And these times, shifting mobility is emerging as a sunrise sector, when many other industries and sectors we are seeing have been adversely affected, not doing well. I personally feel it is a good bet of business opportunity for a lot of our investors who are today on this call. And it is also, I was reading, it is also giving a lot of new employment in the coming years, and that becomes a good avenue for our franchisees to consider. I was reading there was massive initiatives which have been taken by the government in this regard, and I saw some comments also in the chat room, and people are a little worried on how this would grow. So we understand there's a big initiative by the government, there's a commitment to zero emission, and there's also a reason which is climate change commitment which the government has made. All these collectively will make this initiative stronger. And recently, the last 2.5 months, we've seen a lot of activities which have come into play by a lot of private players as well, with acquisitions. I think 2 days back, Ola announced their acquisition of an Amsterdam-based company into two-wheeler. We also read about Euler Motors, who raised capital. So there's a lot of play which is happening in this sector. And what we currently see is the biggest challenge, which is availability of adequate charging infrastructure, which is one of the key requirement in this sector, which has been missing. And this also requires a very fast pace of adoption, as would happen in the electric vehicle penetration. And energy operators like yourself have taken this lead to enable us in the e-mobility economy. Vineetji, my first question, we did talk about, B2B space. We talked about the adoption of two-wheelers and four-wheelers. My question to you is, if you look at these 4 categories of vehicles on the road, two-wheelers contribute the maximum, which is about 79%, and we have three-wheelers about 4%, and four-wheelers, which is both premium and economy value cars, which contribute close to about 14% of these vehicles on the road. And if we see the conversion which will happen, because the conversion would also happen in the same proportion as we have these vehicles currently running on the road today. And it is both a subject of the government of India and also a state mandate, where different states like Delhi, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, they have also their own internal EV policies and mandates, and they have an aim to convert certain number of vehicles. For example, Delhi, one of the biggest polluted cities in the world, have an aim to convert 25% of these vehicles to EV vehicles by 2024. So my question to you is two. One is, which are the locations or cities that you see are ripe for the very first phase of rollout, both by penetration of EV vehicles in these cities or states, and second, by your own bandwidth to service these cities. And out of the 2 models that we talked about, which is franchise model 1 and the 2, do you feel there would be some spots or locations or cities where these would be more relevant? For example, if I say there's a more penetration of two-wheeler in certain locations or certain cities, which model would work? Because I saw those questions also coming up in the chat box. If you can give from your own experience, because I saw in the Gurgaon, you run one of these spots, which is very close to the Cyber Hub, and because Cyber Hub carries a lot of these shared vehicles, which is Ola and Uber, you have a lot of rush of these vehicles coming there. So from your own experience and from the study which you have done, before you entered, any reflections that you want to share, any tips that you would want to share with the prospective business buyers on what locations are right, and second, which are the cities which are ripe to immediately get across?
Sure. Yes, I think our first, there are several cities that we are kind of looking at. Primarily, we are focusing on the metro cities, which is Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, Mumbai, Calcutta, to look at the 7 and 8 Ahmedabad, 7 and 8 key cities where we are looking at, and for both two-wheelers as well as four-wheelers. I think these are the prime markets for us right now. This is where you will have the maximum number of vehicles on the road, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that for our outlets there is traffic coming in, and so the number of vehicles needs to be in larger quantity. So these are some cities. In addition to that, for passenger cars, we are also looking at some of the tier one cities in terms of Jaipur, Chandigarh, Cochin, in terms of Bhopal, Indore. So there are other cities. So in total, we are kind of looking at around 7, 8 cities for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, and about 15 cities for passenger cars, where we are kind of looking at in this year to have the presence. And this is where we are also looking at working with the OEMs, because I think we have to work with the OEMs to make sure as they launch new products, as they launch, as they do the marketing campaigns, our outlets are available in locations. So that's, so it has to be in coordination with the OEMs. Also, the fleet operators, in terms of we are looking at partnering with fleet operators in the city to make sure that we can, provide the capability from passenger car, and also the two-wheeler, three-wheeler. We are kind of working with the last mile delivery operators in terms of food delivery, e-commerce delivery, and the courier delivery in these metro cities. So viability of our partners are very important, and so we want to make sure we focus in the city. So over a longer period of time, I think we would be expanding in different cities. But as of now, for this year, these are the 7 or 15 cities that we're going to focus on. Hope that
Thank you,
answers.
Viniji. I think that's very important. And I saw some comments, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg as far as the EV industry is concerned, and it's just ready to be exploded. I have another question which I'll take, which comes from Kiran. He's interested in the model, he says, and he was looking at, if you look at energy operators like yourself, there are two options which are currently available globally also. One is charging stations like yours, and the other is a swapping thing, where they swap the battery with other battery. Is that option also available with the Plug and Go?
Yeah. So for us, our belief is that battery swapping technology requires significant investment in infrastructure. So for us, we as a strategy, as a business strategy, we are staying away from battery swapping because it requires a significant amount of investment. I think in the initial days, this is just my own personal view. Not to not to be negative in terms of the people who are kind of pursuing this, but my personal view is that in the short term, in the first few years, I think battery swapping is going to be viable and it's going to work. But as the charging infrastructure gets established, the wider spread of the network and the low cost would provide bigger benefit to the infrastructure provider. So I'm talking more from an infrastructure perspective. So in the business, we believe that charging infrastructure would provide better returns over a longer period of time.
Okay.
Or I think, Sonia, you take up the next question. I see a lot of people wanted to buy a franchise and they're writing on the chat box.
Right.
We are doing these webinars and we get hundreds of inquiries on a single webinar. So to make it even more easier, so we have now activated all our offices.
I can hardly hear you.
So we have activated all our offices, and now my suggestion to all the investors on that, if you can use the Q&A box and put if you are interested in a master franchise or a unit franchise, so that our teams can get in touch with you after this webinar and start fixing one-on-one discussions with the brand. So you can write your entire thing, because more you are clearer about your interest, more our teams can really set it up, the calls. Your contacts are mostly available with us. So you can just put your master or a unit franchise interest. Okay, over to you, Sonia.
Okay. We have another question which has come up. Setting up a project like this would require certain licenses. So what kind of licenses does it require, and what help would Plug and Go give to a franchisee in procuring these licenses?
Yeah. So I think first of all, I do want to get that misnomer out there that license is required. So there has been a mandate by it been issued by the Ministry of Power that charging infrastructure, if you are into the charging business, you no longer require a license because and we have a copy of that mandate, and we'll be happy to share with any franchisee which is interested in this. So you don't need any licenses. However, having said that, you do need certification, just like when you get any electricity connection in your facility. Today, you do need to make an application to the various, authority to get that permission to get the meter connection done. So those are formalities that needs to be done. And I think as part of our strategy, we are looking at partnering with several DISCOMs in different regions where we are setting up charging outlets at the DISCOM, because this is a revenue opportunity for DISCOMs also, which are kind of struggling for cash. So they also want people to use, their network it's an avenue for them to sell energy. So we, as in turn, provide that kind of support to our community to make sure that the process is easy and you don't need any license. However, at the end of the day, the connection has to be in the name of the franchisee. So, and the paperwork has to be done, but we will help making sure that the process is smooth and the necessary support is there.
Great. I think that's very important point that you made. I'll also pick up some more questions. While there are many, I'm not too sure if we can cover all. I have more than 100 questions which I see currently which still need to be answered. When we talked about the location, the spots the franchisee can open, would there be a problem or a risk if the station is in the basement of any building? For example, maybe a parking spot, so to say. Is it safe to run locations like these?
Yeah, I mean, like for example, a lot of the malls have underground parking, right? So putting up charging stations and underground parking is really fine. There is no, actually that's better because it's protected from the sunlight. Though the chargers are, IP65, IP55, certified. So, but it's certified for outdoor use. But indoor it gives you further better protection. The only thing is that there needs to be parking available and easy access. So the charging has to be set up where there is parking and easy access. As long as that is there, we don't see any issue. I mean, there should not be waterlogging. I mean, sometimes in moments I find that there is some water leakage and seepage that gets into waterlogging. So I think that needs to be ensured that there is no waterlogging in that basement area.
Okay, I have a question. Is there any current tie-up with OEMs? I think you did mention about that. So are you tied up with the OEMs to sell your battery first? Is there some kind of a relationship at this stage?
Yes. So, I'm not, at this point of time in that discussion, I'm not in purview to disclose the names of the OEMs. But yes, we do have a tie-up for both two-wheeler and three-wheeler in terms of where our batteries are being used and in terms of going to be marketed. We're just waiting for the lockdown. It's just that the lockdown happened at, timing of that for launch. It obviously has pushed us back. But yes, it's very soon, as soon as the lockdown opens up, we will have our batteries with the vehicles on the road.
So, Niji, we have some questions on the operating expenses. If I want to club these together, I would like to understand, from your own outlet or the center, the spot in Gurgaon, which is running in Cyber Hub, what kind of sales are we doing and what are the operating expenses in terms of the manpower which is required? What salaries would go to them? And second, what is the arrangement as far as the rent is concerned? Most of these should be on revenue share basis, or there's a fixed rental, because many of these spots would be shared spots where vehicles are coming for maybe a fuel or using as parking spots. So most of the rentals, do you see these coming as a revenue share model, or this should be a fixed rental kind of a model? And what expenses operating you foresee a franchisee need to keep with him as a working capital for the initial maybe 3 months time?
Sure. So I think with regards to in terms of uh, uh, the kind of operating expenses, the major operating expenses is the manpower. One of the things we as a strategy have decided that all our outlets are going to be manned as far as the four-wheeler, two-wheeler, three-wheeler are concerned. Now, for the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, because we are looking at somebody who already have a retail business, so we are making an assumption that it will already be manned. The reason for that is that we at our outlets, one of the operators was not there for 2 days. He was as we are doing this pilots, so people who were using it, they left the gun down on the road, and the vehicle, tire went over it. So I think we want to make sure that one, the support is there, so that's an additional cost. Where the business has to absorb. That's the major operating cost, is to have that manpower. The second operating cost is the electricity, in terms of the consumption. So when you have the meter, so there is an electricity consumption that takes place. And so those are the two major operating costs. The second thing is in terms of all the support that we provide. So there is a cost element for that. And then also in terms of the operating cost is in terms of the land. The question was asked in terms of how that you have both models. You have a fixed payout, and you have revenue sharing, or you have a combination of both. So we have in terms of, as we are setting up our outlets, it depends on with whom where you are working an arrangement with. So some are comfortable on a fixed, some are comfortable on revenue sharing, and some in terms of we're trying to do both. So that's on a case to case basis. But yes, we have all those three models, in terms of managing the operating cost. I mean the land cost.
Okay, and would there be certain spots which are currently available or identified by you, which can also be offered to the franchisees?
So there are several things in terms of, we have some other initiatives that we have kind of going on with some PSUs to have some locations. But I think that's something we need to kind of work on. We're also having support from the government, various state governments, in terms of providing us the land. However, when you have the state government and the land available, so we have some private lands also. I think once once we know in which area have parties who are interested in making, so we can make that thing land available. Obviously, we have to sign that agreement directly with those. We get a lot of inquiries from new building, in terms of they want charging infra. So one of the things that we are talking about is, as you set up this new buildings, there's a mandate you need to have 20% parking. So there's a thought process of whether you put, AC chargers or fast chargers. So we are kind of talking to different building owners, both commercial as well as residential, to put DC fast charging. So I think we should be able to provide. Yes, we do have some, but have we signed up something and kept it ready for investor? The answer is no, because that agreement has to be signed by the franchisee with the landlord. But so we have a bank of opportunity that land can be.
Sure. I think that would also be very helpful. Nichi, my other question is on the pricing. How competitive is the pricing, and is this regulated?
Pricing of what?
Pricing of charging.
Right. So there is a regulation in terms of the pricing at which the DISCOM sells it to the to the PSU, right? At what price the DISCOM can sell, right? As far as the private is concerned, if you are availing government subsidy, then there is some regulation, but are free to kind of put, whatever rates that you have. Now, on the flip side, the government has created a EV policy, multiple states where providing electricity, special rate of electricity for EV. And this is not a subsidy now. It has become a mandate that, look, in Delhi, if you are setting up a charging, just like you have a commercial property, this is the rate. If you have a residential property, this is the rate. So if you are setting up for EV charging, this is the rate. So that has been mandated, and we have a list depending on what state you're in, what that number has been specified. And if no EV policy is there, then you just take the industrial or commercial rate for that particular state. So where you kind of get in terms of what is the electricity that you are going to be paying, right? And then regarding the how much you can charge, if you're taking subsidy, then there may be some some cap on that.
Okay, so which means there'll be different pricing in different states depending on the EV policy and the price at which perhaps the power is also supplied in that state. So there would be a difference.
Yeah, I think I just want to add one more thing to that is, one of the things that we're looking at is for our customers, we are charging them a subscription rate, right? So, and a monthly subscription. So what that does is, and our policy or our program that we kind of structured is we kind of provide unlimited charging for that amount of monthly subscription. And for us, we give a franchise a fixed amount, right? So so for every unit of electricity that gets consumed, right? So there is an electricity rate that they have to pay to the for their consumption. Plus on top of that, some markup. So I think that kind of a situation in terms of, you have a pay as you go and you have a subscription rate, so you have different models in terms of how we structure. For us, because initially we are looking at captive business, that a majority of the revenue will come through this captive. So it's not going to impact our business model to a significant amount.
Okay, and what is the overall sharing between franchisee and you on the total revenue which a unit would make?
So I can give you exact numbers right now in terms of how we're looking at it. So our business model has been kind of worked out, keeping 13 rupees to a unit, and we hand over 11.5 rupees to our franchise, making if the electricity, looking at an average electricity rate of 6.5, right? I mean, some cities is different. So where it is different, the rates go up and down accordingly. But just to I'm talking on an average out basis.
Right.
So typically you get about 5 rupees per unit into the pocket of the franchisee. So I think that's the number that need to use is 5 rupees per unit of consumption. It goes into the pocket to pay their expenses in terms of all their operating expenses. It also cover the investment that they make.
Okay.
I think 5 rupees is a good number for us.
And that's average across all two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and four vehicles.
Yeah. That's a unit of electricity, right? I mean, so whether it is a two-wheeler or three-wheeler or four-wheeler, really doesn't matter. So the measure is how much of electricity you're consuming.
Is being consumed.
Yeah. So I think 5 rupees is a number that people can use in their business calculation.
Great. I think we've kind of covered a lot of questions, and many of these are very specific to the city. I have one question which I would like to take is there a model only for the two-wheelers? We talked about two models, which is a combination of 2, 3, and 4. Can there be a model where only two-wheeler spots can be created, which is a miniature model which can be put in, or it has to be a combination of all the three? Like when I started off, I said, there would be certain spots which will have a bigger, maybe passing of two-wheelers. So is that a possibility which can be looked at?
Yeah, so I think the way the charger is set up, so the charger can take both two-wheeler, three-wheeler, right? So if they want to two-wheeler, so that's at their prerogative, right? In terms of the franchise prerogative, they say that, hey, look, we will only allow two-wheelers to charge here. And the way our system is set up, that we can only, as part of that particular location is concerned, we can say that only you can charge two-wheelers out there. So when, as a user, want to look at, and I say I'm a two-wheeler user, so that location will not show in my search as a location for three-wheeler. So if I'm a if I'm a three-wheeler user, so we can set it up accordingly. So there's nothing that can be done physically. It's just that, they have to say that, okay, because our space is so constrained, that we can only have two-wheelers charging. And so as part of the understanding, we will just make sure that we, in the software, we only show it as a two-wheeler location, not as a three-wheeler location.
Okay.
Sure, I think very helpful, and we already run out of time, and we still have a lot of questions to answer. This is probably the biggest response we've got. We've got over, I think, 170 odd questions, and about 300 odd people attended this. So it's very engaging, and this is also reflective of everybody thinking in the same line that this is going to be the next big opportunity, and opportunities like these always need first mover advantage. So you need somebody who would go and create the first move, set up the first place, and then you create subscribers, and subscribers continue to come back to you. And as Viniji also said, this business is going to be 50-60% dependent on fleet, and this is B2B, which means that fleet owners would tie up with you, and then they would use the services. So it depends. Most of the times, if you're giving good service, good value, they would stay with you, and their population of vehicles is continue to grow. And I think public transport, three-wheelers, other four-wheeler cabs, and other vehicles would continue to grow. And I think now would be a very big impact on the two-wheeler side also. A huge shift would happen in, especially in the next year. You will see a lot of OEMs. We are also working at Franchise India, which are coming with a lot of new models of two-wheelers and so on and so forth. Even the big companies would not be able to restrict this. And we are in the advanced discussions with companies like Mahindra and likes of them. They all are launching many vehicles coming through the last mile connectivity and so on and so forth. So because all the auto companies have been shaken by this time, and they want to move into new sectors, and e-vehicle is one of the sectors, especially on a public transport side, almost every OEM is thinking on. And so charging infrastructure is one of the big demands, and we congratulate Viniji. You've been the first pioneer, and we're very happy for a great association we have with Plug and Go, and we were able to bring this opportunity to our audience. So we'll take now your last remarks, and Sonia, your last remark, and then we can close the session. All our locations are active now for Franchise India, and our teams are aggressively working. So they will reach out to all the inquiries which you have put in. After this call, they would start reaching out to you and start fixing a particular time or interaction with the brand. Over to you, Mr.
First of all, I'd like to thank both Gaurav and Sonia and Franchise India for giving us the opportunity to talk to your audience. We are looking forward. Hopefully, what I've shared has been in terms of informative, and looking forward to interacting with Franchise India and all the audience here, and seeing how we could help create this ecosystem to support e-mobility. We are excited about it, and hoping to looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Viniji. Sonia, your remarks.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Viniji. It was really very insightful, like you said. A lot of learnings we had through this presentation that you made today. And overall, we feel the Indian consumer sentiment is also improving as far as the EV is concerned. And all the major automotive players, industry bodies, as well as the consumer is shifting their attention from the traditional driven vehicles to the alternate energy like EV, and which makes it more interesting. And also the combination, which is technology and a clear path towards monetization, the business model that you have will help in unlocking a very big opportunity today. So early entrance and speed of penetration, I feel, are two big things which will take anybody who's coming in this category industry forward. So we wish you all the best, and we look forward to working with you in this year to make it big. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we like your brand name, it says it all, Plug and Go.
Yeah, we want to make it a fast charge, so plug and go, right?
Sure. So Archana,
Okay.
final thank you note from your side, and then we can.
So thank you so much, Gaurav sir. Thank you so much, Sonia ma'am. Thank you so much, Bansal sir, for taking out time and interacting with all of us. As rightly said by Gaurav sir, we exactly got 172 queries. We try to answer many of them, and as suggested by Gaurav sir, our regional team will definitely contact you. We got your details, we got your number and your queries also. So we'll definitely touch base you within 2 days, where our regional team and corporate team be in touch with you. However, if you want to write back to us or to contact us, we are just sharing information in your chat tool. You can reach out to these numbers and email ID. You can also reach out to Franchise India through our social sites, which is again there in your chat tool. We would love to answer all your queries. And as Gaurav says and Sonia ma'am always says, we are in service sector. We are there to help you. We are happy to help for any kind of the support from Franchise India side. With this note, I would just request Dheeraj to give information about tomorrow's webinar, which we are conducting. So tomorrow again a great brand which we are going to present to each one of you and to all the potential business buyer with us. So here it is. It's one of the leading international SME business coaching franchisee. The name of the brand is Tab, and we have a privilege to interact with Ramakrishna, who is the managing director, along with Gaurav sir and Sonia ma'am. So with this note, we really
Also, just to add on, we're seeing a lot of people are taking time out at 12 o'clock every day and come for this. We thank you for being a consistent participant in that. If you feel that some of your queries are not answered or you need more queries to be done from us, we're more than happy to help you out. And if you feel that you need some more industries which interest you and you want to reach out to those industries, we have 600 brands with Franchise India. So if you need any particular industry you want to really listen, or any industry which interests all of you, please reach out to us. Both Sonia and I am available on our LinkedIn IDs. Or you can directly write to us on our emails, and we will organize more and more webinars in coming time. We're also starting a lot of regional webinars. You should also follow that regional. So some companies out of West India, South India, and East India, and so these are also going to be done in the second half of the day. So there is a lot of opportunities on the way. Please keep registering on time and keep sharing your thoughts, and we'll continue to bring more and more opportunities.
Thank you so much, Gaurav sir. Thank you so much, friends and family. Take good care of yourself, your family, and your friends. All the best for the rest of the day. Best wishes from Franchise India team. Thank you so much.